Hey, good evening. It's November 4th, Sunday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and it's time for Open Mic VO. My name's Graham Spicer. I'm moderating this evening, and tonight we're going to be talking about animation, character voices, video games, anything to do with the idea of making up those voices that you hear in your head. Also, want to talk about WoVOCon, which is coming up in 1 week's time, in less than a week's time. And I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking to you about WoVOCon, which is the World Voices Conference being held Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Las Vegas. And we'll talk more about that in just a couple of minutes. Want to get us started with the usual house rules. First and foremost is please keep yourself muted at all times if you're not actively participating in the conversation. I don't want to dissuade you from participating. Please unmute yourself if you have anything to add, if you have a question to ask. Absolutely want to hear from you. But if you're not actively in the conversation, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, it means that we have a lot fewer problems with dogs barking in the background and echo and feedback, things like that. The second thing I want to mention is we're all pros here. Some of us have been in the business longer than others, but by the very nature of your being here for an hour on a Sunday evening, you are expressing your professionalism for the voiceover business. And I want to make sure that everybody gets treated as a pro. So please, I want to reassure those of you who are new to the business that there's no such thing as a silly question. And I just want to remind those of us who've been around a little while, hey, we were newbies once too. And let's make sure we treat everyone with respect. The third thing I want to mention is that we record OpenMicVO and it gets posted to YouTube. And the reason I say that, one, is that you may need to go back and reference it at some point in the future. No problem. You have the ability to do so. But just in case you share any information with us tonight, just keep in mind that anything that you share that is proprietary or confidential, just keep in mind that this does get posted to YouTube and I can't control over where that ends up. And the final thing I want to mention is that Open Mic VO is proudly brought to you by World Voices, the professional association for voice actors. But just remember is that anything that I might say tonight, anything that is said by other participants in the call tonight are our opinions only and not necessarily the official view of World Voices on any given topic. So with that said, in just a moment or two, I'm going to start unmuting people. Tonight's topic is animation, video games, character voices, anything to do with those voices in your head that you want to bring to life. And also we're going to be talking about WoVOCon, which is the upcoming World Voices Conference, which launches Friday and runs through Saturday and Sunday of this coming week. And it's being held this year in Las Vegas. So let me start unmuting people here. Once you see that you are unmuted, you can do one of two things. Either mute yourself in the lower left-hand corner of your Zoom meeting window. There will be a little microphone icon. Just click it to mute yourself. Click it again to unmute. Or feel free to be the first to ask us a question tonight or to get us started on our topic. Just starting to unmute people here now. This takes just a moment or two because I have to do everybody one at a time. Okay, so again, tonight we're talking about animation, video games, character voices. Also, if you have any questions about the upcoming WoVOCon conference being held this coming weekend in Las Vegas, happy to answer any questions you might have or to discuss the conference as well.
Hi, I'm Sarah. How are you?
Hey, Sarah, glad you're back here with us tonight. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm glad to be back. So
You have a
I
question?
started in animation voiceover recently. I had my animation demo recorded a couple months ago, and I'm wondering what's the best way to break into this type of voiceover? Where should I be sending the demo?
Okay, so the question is, Sarah just recently had her animation demo produced. Where does she take it? What does she do with it? Sorry, I'm just making a couple notes here. Just out of curiosity, Sarah, who produced your animation video or animation demo for you?
It was produced by Anna Garduno of Voice Forward in New York City.
Voice Forward. There's a company that I haven't run across before. Does anybody have any thoughts for Sarah on where she might take her animation demo to get some exposure for it amongst those who have the opportunity to hire people in the animation area?
Good evening, Graham.
Hey, JD.
Sarah, first and foremost, obviously, I hope you have your website, and I hope you've posted it there. That's certainly a start, and then you can start sending out your emails everywhere. You're in New York?
I live in New Jersey, but I do most of my voiceover things in New York. I'm a member of Voice Actors of NYC. I do have a website, and my animation demo is posted there.
Wonderful. Well, in your case, you might want to start sending it out to agencies. I mean, you've got a unique voice. It's very distinct.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's a great voice. I wish I had it.
Thanks.
But wow, there's so many great people involved in this industry who are wonderful. I've been working with Eliza Jane Schneider on characters, and she also has a wonderful course that she teaches, and she introduces us to professionals in the industry who tend to always share their information about how and where to send our demos and things of that nature. I think you really need to just start sending it to agencies, because in terms of animation, beyond everything else, I mean, animation is a very tight group, tight genre, and they don't just oh boy, I'm tripping all over myself here. You just can't find it randomly. I mean, I've done some animation. I found things all sorts of different ways. I've looked through Craigslist, and I've done immense numbers of Google searches, and I've contacted friends in the industry and things of that nature. But really, I think you really need to pursue representation, because most of the real good jobs come through representation for animation, most of the professional jobs. Are you a member of the Global Voice Acting Academy by any chance?
I'm not a member of the Global Voice Acting Academy.
Someone you might want to consider communicating with is Christina Malizia and David Rosenthal from the Voice Acting Academy, and Brian Summers as well. The three of them are all part of the GVAA, and actually Christina and David are founders, and Christina, of course, is very prolific in the animation and character world. David coaches and performs and also produces demos, and they are wonderful resources and probably better at articulating what to do and where to go than I am right now.
Spit it out, JD.
I don't. I'm working on an audition myself right now, and I'm just tripping all over my tongue.
Yeah. Sarah, someone else you might want to speak with, and you'll probably have to, pay a 1 hour fee in order to get through to him, but it might be worth it for you, is a guy named Jay Schneider, who works out of Edge Studio in New York. And Jay is very, very deeply embedded in the anime dubbing world. He's done a number of kind of A-list anime titles. And just listening to your voice, I think that you might be quite suitable for that particular genre, that subgenre, I should say, of animation. So, again, Jay Schneider works out of Edge Studio in New York, edgestudio.com, if you wanted to check out his bio. But he definitely might be worthwhile you speaking to as well. And JD, you may have tripped over yourself a little bit, but the advice you provided was awesome. And thank you very much for contributing.
You're welcome. I just thought of something else.
Oh, what's that?
If by any chance you're going to be in Los Angeles this coming November in a few weeks, Nancy, whose last name I can't think of right now, Bart Simpson is going to be at That's Voiceover, and she's speaking at That's Voiceover. So I'm sure there will be tons and tons of insights that she'll be sharing as well. So
Nancy Cartwright.
Nancy Cartwright. Boy, how can I not remember that? Well, one question for you, Graham. Do you need to be a member of WoVO to attend WoVOCon?
That's a very good question. And the answer for this year, at least, is yes. But I'm sure that we could work out some sort of arrangement where a portion of your membership fee that you would have to purchase in order to register would get applied towards your registration. So I'm sure we can work out a sweet deal for you, JD, if you were interested in attending.
That I am, and I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No problem. So Sarah, Eliza Jane Schneider that JD mentioned is a great piece of advice. Jay Schneider, who just happens to have a name that sounds very close to it, another good opportunity for you. And the thing I like about Jay is that so much of the animation world is done in Los Angeles. A lot of the anime dubbing is done out of New York studios. I don't know why, but it is. So if you're looking for work in Manhattan, then Jay may be a good resource for you. So tonight we're talking character voices, animation, video games. Any questions, any sort of information you want to share about those topics, more than welcome. Also, just a quick overview of, by the way, Sarah, I should mention, Nancy Cartwright, of course, is going to be at That's Voiceover, which is a one-day conference, I believe, that's being held in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks' time. Bob Bergen, who's the voice of Porky Pig, and he does just a ton of animation work, is going to be at WoVOCon and doing a masterclass this coming Friday at WoVOCon, and you would be one of only 12 in a class with Bob Bergen, who's like a prolific animation voice actor. So just throwing that out there as a consideration. Bob Bergen, if you go to his website and if you check out like the voiceover blogs and the voiceover Facebook groups and stuff, Bob often is posting pieces of advice and just wonderful information in those places as well. So Bob is a good guy to get to know for sure.
I forgot all about Bob. Oh, I'm sorry. Bob also has a cruise coming up.
What's that, JD?
Bob also has a cruise coming up in January with Mary Lynn Wisner.
I didn't know that. Do you know anything more about that, or could you post a link for us?
I'll get that link posted in just a moment.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Sarah, sorry, did you have something else to add there?
Oh, yes, I just wanted to say, Graham and JD, thank you so much for your advice. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to WoVOCon this year, but maybe next year.
Bob Bergen is a wonderful resource, and he does travel around a little bit conducting workshops. So if you ever do have the opportunity at some point in the future of running across Bob, he's definitely worth the few $100s that you'd have to pay to do a workshop with him. He's wonderful and a very good teacher. And if nothing else, he can entertain you with his Porky Pig voice for an entire afternoon, which is pretty cool. Who else has got questions for us tonight? Questions, comments, talking about character voices, animation, video games. Anybody have any questions about World Voices, WoVOCon? Happy to answer any questions with regards to WoVOCon as well.
Hi, Graham.
Hey, William, how are you tonight?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you very much for asking.
Sorry for the sound here, but definitely I just had a quick question about I'm based out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and definitely interested in character voices and stuff like that, but just wondering what would be the best route for somebody in our remote location to get into something like that.
I think that you're going to find it challenging to make many inroads into animation. Like, are you going to be cast as the next voice for a Fox animated TV series? Probably not, because those really are, it really is required that you're kind of on the ground in Los Angeles to make that happen. However, that doesn't mean you don't have lots of opportunity to do character voices even in commercial work. There's lots of opportunity for you to develop character voices and personas in commercial work, and you can do that kind of work from pretty much anywhere. The other thing is video games is, again, you're probably not going to be doing work for Electronic Arts and Ubisoft based out of Calgary. But there's lots of smaller and independent game development companies that are often posting to voice123.com and voices.com looking for character work for independent games. And that certainly would be a good place for you to get started. And then from there you could make some determination. Hey, if you did have an opportunity to get cast as one of the next voices in a Fox animated TV series, might be worth the trip to LA for you. That might be worth moving there. So,
thank you very much.
Fantastic. No problem. Anybody else have any input on that? Because I'm certainly not the authority by any means on all of these topics. So, certainly interested in having some more input.
Good evening. This is Kendall from Miami area.
Hello, Kendall.
And yeah, I definitely agree with you. I second that. I'm no expert. I'm newer into the industry. I think, Sarah, you and I have been on a couple different forums, so we're probably about the same level, but it's exciting because there are so many opportunities. And I just recently submitted an audition for a YouTube-based cartoon. It was a faith-based, nothing major, but they are out there, those opportunities. And I do second what you say. The word on the street is, if you want to be in the big cartoons or video games, you really do have to be in the major markets, LA in particular. My question to follow up that statement is, I've heard that you really can't get into that genre as well unless you're union. I might be going down a rabbit trail, but it is something that's kind of intrigued me, because I would be willing to relocate if said opportunity came. And I was just wondering if anybody else had an opinion about that.
Certainly, the big Fox animated TV series, and if you're going to become the next Disney princess or something, obviously those are union gigs. But I am finding increasingly, and this isn't necessarily my direct experience, but I talk to lots of people in the business, lots of coaches, and increasingly there are lots of opportunities in non-union in all three of these areas: character voices, animation, and video games. In fact, most of these smaller independent video games are absolutely going to be non-union productions. So still lots of opportunity, even if you're non-union. Get your feet wet by doing some non-union work, which is probably where you would start anyway. And then as you advance, you can make it into the union ranks. But my advice has always been, when it comes to going union, and I'm a big proponent of the union. I think that we should all aspire at some point to become SAG-AFTRA franchised actors. I'd like to think we all want to be competing against the very best in the world at what we do and working on all the best projects in the world. And to do that, you need to be a SAG-AFTRA actor. But my thought has always been, you'll know it's time to join the union when you can't afford not to. When you're given an opportunity to work on a union project that is just so lucrative that it would be silly for you not to join the union. And I know a number of actors who have been put in just that situation. They've worked on I'm thinking specifically of a guy named Michael Schwalbe, which some of you might be familiar with. Michael Schwalbe was based in Nashville, Tennessee, and he started doing video game work. Basically, the way I just described is that, he would he went to the video game developer conferences and actually would walk the aisles at the video game developer conferences, handing out his cards and talking to the developers. And it's funny, in many cases, the voiceover for these games to some of these independent development companies is kind of an afterthought. They think about all of the game development and the animation, the visuals of it, but they kind of think about the actual casting of the voices, as an afterthought. So Michael did a really good job. First of all, he's an incredibly talented actor, which helps a lot. But he started his career based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and did really well. And then about a year ago, he moved to Los Angeles. He is a SAG-AFTRA actor now, and he's doing gangbusters. So, there are some great success stories that of people who have followed the track much as I just described it. So just trying to keep up and make some notes here. Who else has got a question for us tonight? Someone is mentioning, and actually they've signed in with the World Voices account, so I'm not quite sure who it is, but they're mentioning that that's how they got their initial start in video game work as well. They literally went to the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. It happens in March every year, and just introduced themselves to the developers as they were walking up and down the aisles.
This is Kendall again. I'm sorry to hog the mic.
No, happy, especially someone who's interested and active in this area. Interested in anything I have to say, Kendall?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, actually, this is a new genre for me to explore, because usually my area is not dubbing or animation and whatnot, but it's fun, and I like putting my toes in a lot of different types of water. And my question is, recently I did go ahead and I had an opportunity to go to a video production studio and give a sampling of my dubbing techniques. And that was a lot of fun. And they were really patient with me. My question was and is, with regards to doing cartoons versus foreign language dubbing, is it similar in that where you have to keep the time? I would imagine it is similar where you have to keep the timing pretty concise with what the action is on the screen, or is it a little bit more forgiving because it is an animated production? So that's basically my question.
In many cases, the final animation of the characters is done after the dialogue's recorded. In which case you don't have to worry about it so much. I mean, you have to hit the rough timing, but you don't have to worry about it so much because they make the animation fit your dialogue versus the other way around. If that makes any sense.
It does. I'm a fan. I'm glad I asked. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Just unmuting a few people who've joined us just in the past few minutes. Hello and welcome. Glad you're here with us tonight at OpenMicVO.
I'm going to pop in one more time, Graham. Something just occurred to me, and that is that many of the opportunities that I have had have come from social media, meaning, for example, Facebook. I've met a lot of the community on Facebook, and from my interactions with other people and other companies, I've been put on a number of rosters for auditions and things of that nature simply because we know each other. They know me. They've gotten to know what I can do, and so when opportunities arise, they say, hey, maybe JD can do this. Here, JD, try this audition. So that's another opportunity. That's another way of getting your name out there.
Now, how do you use social media in a way that you befriend these people and you get on their radar without being annoying about it? Like, how do you go about using social media?
Okay, well, with Facebook, you don't use it. Facebook is really a community, and you can't use it without annoying people. So in that regard, it's just being part of the community and being willing to give back. And then when you get to know people and they do what you're interested in, you let them know that you are interested in it. And if you have talents, something that you think will benefit them, then you can open that conversation. And then of course there's always LinkedIn and Instagram, Twitter. Those are other ways of getting the word out there, and you use those more as tools. But I'm really thinking in terms of Facebook and the family aspect of Facebook, because I've gotten some of my best opportunities that way. I don't want to name any names, but I'm on a major studio's audition roster simply because when they post something that I find interesting, I will comment, perhaps make a joke or something, and if I do something that is worthy of posting, I'll post it so people see, hey, JD can do that. Oh, cool. Maybe we'll think of JD next time, and it's worked out pretty nicely.
JD, I would suggest that you're on the roster of one of these major game developers or animation studios, not just because you're good at social media. I would like to think that you're an excellent performer as well, or you wouldn't stand a chance to get on these rosters. So don't sell yourself short.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Not at all. Who else has got a question for us tonight?
Hi, Graham. I don't have a question, but I'm going to brag a little bit.
James, you are always welcome. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I just found out, and I've been watching the commercials, that Red Dead Redemption #2. I am in that. It's a video game. Did it for Rockstar. That's all I can say because I have a non-disclosure agreement signed. But all I can say is that I'm in it.
When does the game hit the?
It's out now.
Shows? It is out now.
It's out now.
Fantastic! Congratulations, James.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to have to go buy this damn game and figure out how to play it just so
I'm just a minor character, so
well, you're now the third person that I know that's in that specific game. So
they said that they have over 2,000 actors in that game. So it's
then maybe picking out your voice out of the 1999 others might not be particularly easy, especially since I know you're a very talented actor and I might not recognize the voice anyway.
Yeah, I had to use a different voice for it. I didn't actually use my voice, and it has a slight accent to it. But I don't know the name of the character. I can't remember the name of the character, but I do remember the storyboard that they sent me for it. So I know what he looks like. I just can't remember what his name is right off the bat.
Is he a badass? Can you tell us that at least?
No, he's just a town guy. He's
Okay.
one of the bystanders that watches things happen. And it was just a really interesting session. It only lasted for about 15 minutes, but it was pretty intense.
Now, did you do it in studio in New York, or did you do it from
it
a
was
home
at
studio?
Rockstar in New York, yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, congratulations, James. It's a huge title.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Anytime you've got something like that you want to brag about, no problem. You're welcome. Who else has got something for us tonight? Animation, video games, character voices. Any thoughts on how you go about developing character voices, maybe? Also, we are less than a week away from WoVOCon, the World Voices Conference, which is being held this coming Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Las Vegas. Happy to answer any questions you might have about that as well. Unmuting a few people that have just joined us. Hello and welcome. Happy to open up the topic tonight as well. If there aren't any more specific questions with regards to animation and video games, I'm happy to table that for the moment. If anyone has any questions about any aspect of voiceover, you're more than welcome. Karen's piping in saying, let's talk about VR. We want to hear more about virtual reality.
Well, the question I would have about that is that going to be the same kind of deal like with video games and such, whereas if you're not parked in New York or LA, it's going to be difficult to get into that field?
I would think so. And I really hope someone corrects me if I'm wrong. But my perception of VR, at least the voiceover application, the implications to the voiceover community around VR is that VR is just kind of the next step, the evolution of video games. But it's just a technology to deliver a more immersive experience for video games than the standard kind of staring at a flat screen. Does that make sense? Is that accurate? Or am I missing something about VR that has a lot greater implication for voice actors?
Well, hey, Graham, it's Karen.
Hey, Karen. So glad you picked up. How are you?
Finally finished eating dinner, so now I can talk.
Well, we're excited to hear anything you have to add about virtual reality.
Well, I am the person who's in charge of the industry database, the industry events database. And when I was updating it, I added a whole new section on virtual reality. And I have to tell you, there is a ton of conferences all over the place, which says to me, without having done any further research, that there are virtual reality companies springing up all over the place, which means that you can go and, probably do stuff locally with them. Or if you have a really good studio, they might be willing to source connect you or IPDTL you or, whatever. It's so new that I haven't heard too much about it, but it's going to be hot. It is super, super hot.
Well, perhaps we can, I think if I remember right, that there's someone going to be talking about VR at WoVOCon this coming weekend. So I'm going to be interested in hearing more about that. And hopefully we can ask Bob Bergen when we see him if he has any thoughts on VR as well, because again, he's so plugged into the animation area that he may very well have some info for us.
Yeah. And it seems like it's not the huge players who are doing VR. It's more of the startups. So you might find a lot more opportunities in VR as a voice actor who is not based in the major markets.
This is Kendall again in the Miami area, and I definitely am intrigued by VR. Again, that's not a genre that I'm typically in, but I'm also in the tech industry, and I know that there's a lot of tech conventions that said voice actor could tap into, like South by Southwest in Austin. There's a myriad of different tech type communities that could potentially guide a voice actor with options and possibilities. But yeah, it's very intriguing.
So Kendall, tell us, South by Southwest, if you were to go to South by Southwest with a stack of business cards, how are you going to be able to progress your voiceover career? Like who are the attendees at a cultural festival like South by Southwest that are going to be potential targets for you as a voice actor?
No, that's an excellent question. I used to live in Austin, and I hope to return because it's an amazing city, and that's an amazing festival. Yeah, definitely. And I had the opportunity to attend, but for scheduling reasons, I couldn't. But I have a lot of friends, and actually, I have family members that speak in that conference, the festival, if you will. And that's it. It's South by Southwest in particular has a number of different satellite conventions going on all at the same time on different days on different topics. It could be about music, it could be about movies, it could be about tech. In fact, if you go to their website, it'll break down the schedule of what industry is being covered and who's speaking where in different areas of the city. It shuts the city down in a wonderful, beautiful way. It's exciting. So without actually physically being there yet, I plan on going there next year because, again, I have a relative that's going to be speaking there, so I have to, and I'm going to bring my cards. I plan on going to a couple extra seminars and keynote speakers that may pertain to a topic that would relate to what I'm getting into, like virtual reality, maybe AI. There's a lot of different aspects within the technical world that we can embrace instead of being afraid of. I recently wrote something on the internet about how it's a good thing. And if you just evolve with it, it's going to be amazing what we can do as voice actors. So I plan on taking my cards and just rubbing elbows and having a couple coffees or some barbecue brisket with some people and passing my card along just like everybody else. But that's what I would do. Definitely.
Well, you have to promise to report back to us next year after you attend and let us know how it went and how successful you were at spreading the word about Kendall and how great she is as a voice actor.
Will do.
Tonight's topic is character voices, animation, and video games, but we're happy to entertain questions about any topic to do with voice acting, voiceover, performing voiceover, getting voiceover work.
Can I just do a quick comment?
Please.
I've heard from a lot of people who do animation and things like that, that one of the best training, things to get trained in is improvisation, and also take acting classes, because both video games and animation rely heavily on solid acting chops. And animation especially, it's great if you also have some pretty solid improvisational chops. So you might want to think about that. If that's something you really want to target, take acting classes and improv classes.
Now, if I am in Los Angeles, where can I go for improv classes? And the same with any market, actually. I'm in Toronto, as most of you know, and we've got a very active Second City community here that has, many classes, from the most basic to some really quite advanced conservatory classes. What are some markets that people are in, and where can you go for improv in these markets?
Isn't the big one in Los Angeles Groundlings or something like that?
Groundlings is huge in LA.
Yeah.
I think Second City has a branch there too.
Yeah, Upright Citizens Brigade is another one.
UCB is big in New York, I know, for sure.
There are all kinds of things in New York. There are at least 3 or 4 major improv groups in New York. I can't think of them off the top of my head. One of the misnomers is, though, that you go to take improv to train your mind, think fast. With my experience in doing this video game, I had to be on script. I couldn't, deviate from the script. But it does make you, if the director says, do it this way or do it this way, or do you have another take for me, or can you give me something else, that you can pull something out of the top of your head rather than, saying, well, no, give me a suggestion or something like that. But by and large, even with most commercials, even though they say, improv classes are beneficial, they're beneficial in that way, in that they make you think fast on your feet. Not necessarily just to be funny or it's more of the creative aspect, to come up with different takes on the same line or something like that, saying it a different way or giving it a different inflection or something like that, which is why on short things, they will ask you for like a 3 in a row, but you don't want to do 3 of the same thing. You want to do 3 different takes of the same line.
And that's where your acting training also is going to come in. So that's why I was saying you have to really have both, because video games are very cinematic. They're very script run. But animation, you're going to have a little more leeway as far as improvisation is concerned. Some video games are okay with a tiny bit of improvisation, but like you said, for the most part, no. Script. But acting classes will never be a bad thing to invest in for yourself.
Yeah, because I don't know, with my experiences, and it was only a one-time thing, but they actually had a motion capture thing on my head, where they were actually motion capturing my mouth. So when I'm talking in the character that I was in on the video game, that's my mouth.
It sounds like it was just a fascinating experience, James.
I went in there, had no idea what to expect. I really didn't. I thought it was just going to be sitting around a table with a bunch of people reading a bunch of things, and no, it was just me in a studio with a mocap thing on my head. And I could not move. I had to read these lines. The director would say, all right, he's angry here. And I would have to do one line 3 times angry, 3 different ways. He's frightened here. So give me this line. Okay, this one is softer. This one is louder. This one, you're yelling at somebody across the street. That's how it went. Just line after line after line after line with minimal direction, just the suggestion of what it was. And I sometimes tend to get kind of animated, and I couldn't do that because they had the mocap thing on my head. I couldn't move from where I was.
Yeah, tell us about that. Like, how many cameras are facing you when you're doing mocap? And
it was just the one they had. It was like a helmet. They put a helmet on my head, and there was just this thing, the camera that was pointed at my mouth, around my nose and mouth area. So they would watch the jaw, but I couldn't move because it was... It was what am I trying to say? A wireless kind of thing. Right. So I couldn't move out of a certain spot. I had to keep my feet grounded, and if I looked away or if I moved my head from side to side, you can't do that because the mocap was being picked up wirelessly someplace else, And if I tilted my head or I tilted it back or to the side or I nodded yes or no, like I couldn't do that. I had to stay nearly absolutely still.
Man, you got to think that that is a big impediment towards
I
delivering.
was sweating my noogies off. I mean, for a 15-minute session, it was actually only about 45 minutes because it took them time to strap me into that thing and then take it off again and to do kind of a sound check. So for 40 to 45 minutes, it was just this rapid fire line after line after line after line. And I tell you, I was sweating. I was absolutely sweating.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you're not a guy that's, I mean, you've done some pretty big things in the past and in front of some pretty big crowds. And it takes a lot to make James sweat, is I guess what I'm saying.
Well, it's a job. It's a physical thing. It's a job like any other job, and all of the pressures and everything. Inside my head, I'm screaming, I hope I'm doing okay. I hope I'm doing okay. I hope I'm doing okay. And it was, only occasionally did they have me go back and say, let's do another take on that one. I knew that wasn't quite right. Maybe 3 or 4 lines out of, the hundreds that I had to do. So I came away thinking that I did all right. And they were very, very nice there. I mean, it was just nuts. But it was a really, really cool experience.
Do you end up at the end of all of this getting a credit of some sort for the game?
Yeah, they asked me how I wanted my name in the thing. Yeah.
Ah, fantastic.
Oh, sure. I'm in the credits there somewhere.
That is awesome. I'm seriously, now that I know that I know 3 or 4 actors that are in that game, I'm gonna have to go buy it and try it. I'm terrible at video games, but I'm gonna have to go buy it and try and play it just so I can listen to the voices and see if I can identify anybody. So we still have about 10 minutes left or so. Who's got a question for us? Our topic tonight is animation and video games, but that doesn't mean that you can't ask a question about any voiceover topic. Happy to field any questions that you might have. Also, if you have any questions about the upcoming World Voices Conference, WoVOCon 5, which is happening this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Tropicana in Las Vegas. Happy to answer any questions you might have about that as well. Just curious, with a show of hands, how many people that are on the call tonight are going to be at WoVOCon? Oh, there's 4 or 5 of us, I guess, that are going to be there. That's awesome. Kendall saying, I trust there will be no Sunday night OpenMicVO next weekend. Will it be one the following Sunday? Actually, Kendall, there is going to be one next weekend. I'm going to do an OpenMicVO live from WoVOCon. And I'm going to have some special guests with me. I'm hoping to have Dave Cavassier, past president of World Voices, who's going to, entertain us with some stories about World Voices and getting it started and the progress that we've made to date. So we will definitely be here next Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. I'll be on Pacific time next weekend. And then we'll be back the following week for sure. Anybody have something for us? Question, comment?
Hi, Graham. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Sandra.
I would be remiss if I let this call go by and not talk about WoVOCon. Last year was my first year going, and I'm going again this year. I live here in Las Vegas, in a suburb of Las Vegas. And I will say that it was a game changer for me. And that's why I'm going again. But if there's anyone that is going, anyone that is not going, I highly suggest that you try to make it next year, because it is so full of information. There was so many different classes and seminars that it was just hard to choose because they were all so good. And every one that I went to, I got something from it. And it was a game changer for me. It was such a game changer that I'm now full-time voiceover.
Hey,
So,
congratulations.
Thank you. And WoVOCon definitely helped. It was the Voice Actor Studio here in Las Vegas. I have to give them a plug because
Melissa Moats is just the most awesome person, isn't she?
Yeah, and it is. And someone mentioned improv. If you're ever in Las Vegas on a vacation or just or visiting, the Voice Actor Studio here in Las Vegas is a huge community. We're like a family. And we also have improv classes there as well. Brent Mukai is a comedian as well as improvateer, if that's a word.
I'm not sure it is, but I love it.
But yeah, so as far as WoVOCon goes, it's amazing. I mean, if you come in with an open mind and open ears and closed mouth to listen, you will get more than a return on investment. I mean, I got a whole lot more than what I bargained for. And this year, I can't wait. I'm looking, actually, I'm doing a staycation.
So when you say it was a game changer for you last year, what was the one most important takeaway that you got from last year's WoVOCon?
Okay. I listened very closely, and one of the speakers mentioned Pandora.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came home from the conference, I got that little tidbit of information she mentioned from Pandora, and I am now on Pandora's roster.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You just reached out to them directly and said, hey,
Yeah, I did. Because and I wish I could remember who it was because it was just so many great speakers, presenters. But she talked about Pandora and, how to get on the roster and, and just, reach out to them. And, and I was like, okay. So as soon as I came home from the conference, before I even unpacked my bag, I got on the computer and I reached out to them. And the process was long, but I've been on their roster since. I've been on their roster since last September. Yeah.
That is great news. Congratulations.
Thank you. And not only that, but Tracy Lindley, who I think is going to be there again this year, she talks about LinkedIn. Tracy Lindley is amazing. I got some just regular life stuff from Andrea Hathazi. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. And then of course, Graham was there. I met Graham. And there were quite a few nuggets that I got from WoVOCon. So it's a great organization. If anyone needs mentors, there are mentor opportunities available. And it's a great organization. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, if I could get connected with Pandora last year, I'm no telling what could happen. Oh, and I did get a couple of new agents while I was there. Got that as well.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for the ringing endorsement of the World Voices Conference. It's much appreciated, and it was great meeting you last year, and looking forward to seeing you again in just a few days' time.
Thank you, Graham. Look forward to seeing you guys too.
Karen, who's another member of the board of World Voices, I think Sandra would be a great addition to one of WoVO's committees. I'm thinking maybe too, Sandra. I'm gonna be hitting you up when I see you next weekend.
I'm open to it.
Okay, fantastic. Just a couple of minutes left before we close it down for the night. Anyone have any question they want to sneak in under the wire here? Anything at all, of course, about voiceover. Can be about animation and video games if you'd like, but it doesn't have to be. Anyone have a question they want to get in the last couple of minutes? Going once?
I'll ask one last question.
Absolutely, Kendall.
It's actually for Sandra. I've only been to VO Atlanta, and I do plan on going to WoVOCon next year. My question is how did you prepare for this year's meetup? Is there an opportunity to see who's going so you can kind of exchange numbers? Is there a vendor group there? I'm just wondering how you best prepare to attend.
Well, actually, last year, since that was my first one, the first thing I did was join the organization because I knew a few other people who were members, and it behooved me to not join. It behooved me to join because I needed to get as much as I could get for my business. Not only as a voice actor, but on the business side as well. And I knew that there were a lot of industry professionals who were members. So I joined WoVO, and there's a Facebook page, as Graham knows. There's a Facebook page that I'm active. I check out pretty much every day. I may not say anything on it, but I check it out for news and just information, and just to give someone kudos and say welcome to the new members. That is really the best way to connect with everyone, is to become a member. The ROI, there's just no comparison. I've more than made back the return on my investment joining WoVO. I could go on, but that's the great way to get started. That's the way to get connected, is to join the group and get on the Facebook page.
I still think that one of the hidden gems of World Voices is the mentoring program.
Right.
Is that I was approached by a young voice actor, about a year ago, and was asked if I could mentor. And first of all, I was honored. It was a voice actor that I had met at a couple of conferences and knew him somewhat. And I have to say that I got more out of this mentoring relationship than he did. It was just an amazing two-way exchange. And I'm a big believer in the mentoring programs. So
I agree, Graham. I agree.
Absolutely. Well, we're just coming up on 10 o'clock, so we're going to call it a night. And it's been a great conversation tonight. Thank you all so much for coming and spending an hour out of your Sunday evening with us. Next week, again, we're going to be live from WoVOCon next Sunday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So hopefully you'll be able to join us then as well. And we'll be back as usual from my home studio here the following Sunday. So until we speak again next week, have a great week, work hard, book lots of work, and we'll talk to you then. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Graham. Have a good night.